Welcome to the New Planner Podcast, where it's all about helping you successfully enter the financial planning profession and accelerate your financial planning career. This podcast will help you understand the profession, become familiar with the various career paths available to you, and avoid the mistakes that limit your success. Join your host, Caleb Brown, to explore the human side of creating a successful planning career through interviews, personal experience, and insights from the trenches. Let's get started.
Welcome to the 246th episode of the New Planner Podcast. This is Caleb Brown, your host. My guests today are Jordan Paul and Kaitlyn Carlson. Jordan is a lead advisor at Theory Planning Partners, and Kaitlyn is the founder. Jordan and Kaitlyn join the show today to share their career journeys. Kaitlyn shares how she started out in a large mutual fund and then a wirehouse before life events caused her to move back to Boston and rethink her next career steps and ultimately start her own firm. Jordan shares her start in accounting and how a Big Four firm was not the right fit for her as she sought more interaction with people, and after some research led her to the financial planning profession. Stay tuned to the end to hear how the two have been able to grow the firm, build a strong culture, and create a quality control plan as they continue to add to the team. I hope you enjoy this episode with Jordan Paul and Kaitlyn Carlson. Hi, Jordan. Hi, Kaitlyn. Welcome to the New Planner Podcast.
Hello. Hello. Thank you for having us.
I was just telling you guys before we were on the air that I've been looking forward to this ever since you guys scheduled it. So thanks so much for making the time and coming on, and really look forward to diving in. And Kaitlyn, I'd like to start with you, if we could, on just how you entered the financial planning profession. Then we'll come to Jordan.
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to. So I was a psychology major in college, but I always saw myself going into the finance industry. My grandfather and my dad both worked in finance. And so after I graduated college, I started at an asset management firm, and it was a mutual fund company. And those mutual funds were sold exclusively through financial advisors. So I learned about the financial advisor career path pretty early in my own career. And when I learned about it, I thought, what a great marriage of my interests between psychology and finance, because I would be able to work with money and investments, but it would have a face and a name to it because I would be working with families and business owners and individuals. So I met my now husband at my first job, and classic financial services story. He was a wholesaler and he was promoted to take over a territory in the Southeast. And so we moved from Boston, which is where I'm from, down to New Orleans. And when we made that switch, I deliberately chose to join UBS Financial Services. And I had a really unique vantage point because I had worked with wirehouses, independents, and RIAs through the lens of Putnam, which was where my first job was. And so I chose UBS for a couple of reasons. The first one is I knew they had a great reputation as a global wealth management firm. They capped the number of advisors they had at 7,000, and I knew they were working with ultra high net worth families. And the program that I started in there was as a wealth planning analyst. So they were going to pay for me to get my CFP, and I was going to be doing financial planning for advisors. So I covered the Southeast by myself. So I covered Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, and Alabama, which, as you can imagine, for a Bostonian girl was
Welcome to the South, right?
yes, very much a culture shock. But it was good. And in that 2-year period, I did over 300 financial plans, and I worked with over 80 different advisory teams. So again, the beginning of my career, I got such an interesting vantage point for, okay, if I want to choose this career path, here's how I would do it, and here's who I want to focus on. And so after I rolled out of that program, I then became a private wealth advisor. And that's when I started working with the ultra wealthy. So, like the 1% of the 1%. Transparently, I did have a bit of a difficult time in the wealth management space. I did go through quite a bit of sexual harassment, and I'm very open in talking about that because I want other female professionals to feel open talking about it. And I think when things like that come into the sun, then we can do something about it. So that was a tough aspect of my career at UBS that I was wrestling with. Of course, yes, I got great professional experience, but I was really suffering on the inside because of what I was going through with that stuff. So, as you can imagine, I'm highly protective of my advisors so that they don't have to go through something like that. But anyway, so that is part of the reason why we ended up moving back out of the South, back to Boston. And that was a huge driver of it. But also, I did want to move home to settle down and have a family. But I like to be transparent about this part of the story because I really was at a crossroads. I went to UBS. I asked them to move me back to Boston, set me up with a private wealth team there. And it just felt like I was putting a Band-Aid on a big wound, and it had taken away a lot of my passion for actually doing the work. And I talked to my husband about, do I walk away from the industry? Do I open a yoga studio? And he was like, you've spent all of your 20s getting all your credentials and certifications. What if you changed who you were doing this for? Do you think that your passion would come back? And so I started thinking about it. And then I started thinking about the things that I would change if I could start the wealth management industry over again. And there were a couple of things that I thought I would absolutely change. One of them is I loved working with business owners, but I felt like the traditional compensation model underserved business owners because often I would be telling people in their 50s and 60s and 70s that they either didn't have enough money, they had to double the value of their business, or they were used to living off of 400,000 and they had to live off of 70,000. And I was like, why does this keep happening that I have to have this conversation? And I went back to it. And a mentor of mine when I was at Putnam said, tell me how someone gets paid and I'll tell you how they act. And it always stuck with me that he said that. So I was like, okay, I have to eliminate the AUM model because that is what's prohibiting me from going to entrepreneurs in their 30s and 40s and 50s and teaching them how to sustainably create wealth. So that's a huge part of Theory's mission. Another huge part of Theory's mission is, once I started getting into those private wealth rooms, I was looking around and I was just thinking, like, where are the women? I worked with over 300 clients and not one of them was a self-made woman. So for an ambitious woman in her 20s to not have one role model was very disheartening for me. And then I started looking around at all my colleagues, and all my colleagues in private wealth were men, and a lot of them had stay-at-home wives. And I knew that I wanted to be a mom, and I thought this culture is going to become very hard for me. As you know, I have 3 children under 4. So I started seeing the writing on the wall in a lot of ways, and I thought, I think I can create a better ecosystem than what currently exists. So shortly thereafter, I left and I founded Theory Planning Partners. And our mission with Theory is to take the strategy and service and support that I was used to giving $100 million families and bring that to ambitious female entrepreneurs to teach them how to create wealth. And we do that through flat fee structure and a white glove service model.
A lot to unpack there. I want to come back to some of that. And thanks for sharing all that. Sorry you had to go through that. And that just other thing on the psychology. Whenever someone comes to me and says, hey, I didn't get my degree in financial planning, or if you can't, what other degree would you pursue? I always tell them psychology, because that's, as you guys know, that's what we're doing a lot of the times when we're working with the clients. So Jordan, let's just come to you for a minute. I mean, how did you, because you went the accounting route, if I remember. So maybe just pick up there.
Yeah, so did my undergrad and master's in accounting. Thought that's what I was going to do. I loved that the numbers just checked out. Ended up going and getting my CPA, working at a Big Four accounting firm. And for anyone that's familiar with a Big Four accounting firm, you really sell your soul. 100-hour work weeks and just a not very healthy environment for me mentally. And so after a couple years, I decided that I wanted to kind of see what other accounting was out there. So I ended up going to an investment bank and had a great work-life balance there and realized that maybe it wasn't the work-life balance that I was missing. I just realized I liked people more than I liked spreadsheets. And so, the pandemic hit, we were at home and working from home doing accounting, and I started to do a little research on the side and started looking up, okay, how can I use some of this knowledge and pivot and also get to work with people more and help them? And I knew I didn't want to do taxes because the IRS is one of the toughest institutions to work with. I just really didn't want to do that. And so I ended up finding financial planning. And so I decided, okay, if I'm going to completely pivot, I've done so much, I've invested so much in accounting, let me go see if I actually like it. So I actually started to study for the CFP exam and sat for the exam, and I realized just from studying how much I loved the work. What was really neat is the work was applicable to every single person that you meet. And that was really, really powerful. And so you just get to love on people all day. It's like, oh my God, I have to do this. And so ended up finding a company. We actually moved and I found a big firm, but it was, as Kaitlyn said, traditional wealth management. And so you're working with a lot of older individuals who are really just telling you about their Viking cruise coming up, which is, that's great. And for some people, that's really awesome. And they need the assistance too. But I realized I wanted to make an impact earlier because it's so instrumental in the outcomes. And so I ended up obviously working with you, Caleb, and that's how I found Kaitlyn. And it's just been incredible ever since. I don't get the Sunday scaries. I get to wake up every day and just work with female entrepreneurs that, they need our assistance. They need the knowledge. They take the knowledge and they run. And it's the most incredible thing to sit with them. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I ended up here at Theory.
Well, and underserved too, right? To Caitlin's point earlier, like if you don't have a lot of
Yes.
assets under management, like it's hard for people to work with the entrepreneur who doesn't, they might have a couple 100,000 in a 401k or something, but everything's tied up in their business, right? Like until the
Yes.
advisors want them when they sell, but they don't really want to do anything other than that, is what I've found.
Yes. And it's really such a reactive model when in reality, it's these individuals, especially as business owners, need that proactive approach because the tax
Yeah.
planning and all of the planning, the exit planning that needs to happen prior to that transaction is so important and again, so underserved.
So, and I mean, Caitlin already kind of touched on this a little bit. I mean, here you are, Jordan. You're an experienced female CFP CPA. There's like 4 of you out there in the entire country. You could have gone anywhere and done anything, and you decided to join Kaitlyn in Theory. Why?
For many reasons. I will say when I met Kaitlyn, I just love her heart. She has such a heart for people and she cares about her advisors. And so one of the things that I found that was different is, and I know we talked briefly before about unreasonable hospitality, but that's something that in general Kaitlyn lives out. And so when it comes to the team, she cares so much about our advisors and our clients. And that's really rare. Like everyone says they care, but not everyone walks the walk. And she does. And that was really, really powerful to me. And then also just we aligned on so many things on whether it came from investment philosophy to just the model, the fee structure was really important. Coming from the accounting background, I had this like the rosy lenses on that everyone just did the right thing for clients and everyone was compensated in this way that benefited their clients the most. But yeah, it's really Theory is a unicorn in that sense. And so when I found Kaitlyn, I got off our first call and I looked at my husband and I said, I have to work there. If
Oh,
it's not
wow.
right now, if it's not in the cards right now, it has to be someday because this is such a powerful company and model.
So, Caitlin, you left, you started Theory. I mean, when did you start thinking about making your first hire? Maybe like, or whatever, like how many clients did you need to get? Or walk us through sort of that thought process. Like, okay, I can't do this all by myself.
Yeah, that's a great question. When I first started Theory, I think I was in a very wounded place where I just wanted to take up my corner of the world and live kind of this like quiet life. And so when I first started it, I envisioned having 40 clients and I was going to manage them and just call it a day. And I think this is really important because it's a huge piece of the founder journey is that, it's incremental. Like it's the believe, behave, become, and you grow as a person as you're growing on the entrepreneurial journey. And there started to be more demand for Theory's services. And I got connected with a fractional CFO, 2 of them. They're my CFOs now. I just totally fell in love with them. They share the same ethics and integrity and they like to think outside the box. And they were really the ones that said, like, if you hire, this is what it could look like. And this is how it could grow. This is how you could meet your personal goals. This is how you could have a bigger impact. And so, when I started Theory, like I was a personal finance expert, but I had to grow into being a business finance expert. And I needed somebody to hold my hand to show me what that vision could look like. So it happened very organically where the demand for theory started growing. And what was funny is I started to realize that I think if you're a high achiever, like, you'll do what it takes to be successful, right? But once I started hiring, I realized, like, I actually really don't thrive in the weeds. Like, the weeds don't give me energy like they do Jordan. I actually get energy from the high level, and I get energy from, like, the vision casting and where the company is going. And so as the CFOs were painting a picture for me of what it would look like to start hiring, I started realizing I can do the financial planning, but I don't love it the way that Jordan loves it. And so it was this cool organic process where my mind started expanding and I started learning more about myself and also being honest with myself about like where are my strengths and weaknesses. And what I've come to realize is like I love the high level, I love the big vision, I love mentoring. I love mentoring the advisors and being a sounding board for them. And like Jordan said, like I care about the whole person and I want for them what I want for myself. And that's what I'm trying to design within the firm.
Yeah, I mean, you really were able to drill down on your unique ability, what gives you energy. Because there's some people that go through their whole career. It's like, man, I'm like, feel like I'm kind of spinning my wheels. Like, yeah, because you're down there doing the planning, and you should be over here doing the strategic thinking, right? So,
Right, right. Like
100%.
I noticed myself, like, if I naturally noticed myself, I would go way more often to, like, the pipeline than I would to e-money. And what I was looking for in an advisor was what Jordan articulated. Jordan was like, "I love loving on people. I love the client relationships." For me, I love speaking on podcasts. I love speaking at retreats. I love spreading the word and the mission. And I love the sales process because I'm educating people on theory and why I think it would be a good fit. Or if it's not a good fit, like who would be a good fit. That's a huge part of theory too, is we're highly collaborative. So we have relationships with other financial advisors because we're so niche in who we work for. We work exclusively with female entrepreneurs. So, but when people come to us, we always want to have somebody to send them to. So that's a big part of our culture as well.
you talk about the organic growth. It's kind of funny how that works. Like, you get some clients, and then you like do a really good job for them, and you get a bunch more. It's like, okay, great. Now, so I
Yes.
want maybe talk us through like, was there a leap of I mean, did you have like, I'm just trying to remember when we worked together the first time, did you have the clients, or was it like, I'm gonna hire Jordan anticipating getting the clients? Because that's a little bit more of a leap of faith.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you and I were talking, I felt like I was threading the needle, but I had to bet on myself. And I think that that's yeah, that's the raw, honest answer, is I was taking a leap of faith. And, once you start paying a salary to somebody else, it, like, doubles the pressure because now it's like, it's not just me anymore, it's about you and your family. But I found that I really thrived in that. I loved that. So, because like, I love taking care of my advisors and I love taking care of the clients, like Jordan said. And so my motivation to grow the company comes from how can we give back to the advisors? How can we give back to the clients? Like we spend tens of thousands of dollars a year on gifts for clients that are compliant, but still
Right.
we like to make them feel loved. And we have monthly mindset calls that we pay for our clients to have access to. So when it's tied to something bigger than myself, I actually do thrive.
Can you guys just talk about work? Because you're complementary. I mean, you're a little bit opposite, right? I mean, can you just talk to about working together? And it's like, yeah, it's really great. But like, oh, it's so frustrating. 'Cause it's like, Kaitlyn, you want to talk about this high level stuff? It's like, we got to get down here into e-money. Like, we got to get the tax projection. Like, stop this, Kaitlyn. I go, like, can you just talk? Do you ever have those like conversations and run-ins?
The thing is, I think there's such a mutual respect that we're like tactfully like, "Oh, okay, like, and let's get back to the agenda," because I am in the weeds. And so but it is fun too because I love it. Caitlin will pull me out of the weeds, and that's also such a beautiful thing because it's like, "Okay, no, here's the full vision." And it's really fun because I think if either one of us didn't have that opposite or just different reaction to things, I think it would actually hinder the business as a whole, because yeah, it's very easy for me to get down in the weeds, and we kind of balance that out really well. I don't know what you think, Kaitlyn.
One of the things that really impressed me about Jordan immediately is she immediately asked for feedback. Like we got off our first call and she slacked me and she was like, please give me feedback. Give me feedback. So she actually got me in the habit of giving feedback very quick.
First client call. For client call, it was on.
Yes.
Yeah,
Like
okay. Yeah.
very first client call. She
Wow.
slapped me right after we got off and said, please give me feedback. She was hungry for it. And that was so fantastic because it was my first time managing, right? And so like if you wait too long to give feedback, like anthills can become molehills. And so we set this precedent of give feedback early and often, and then things don't become big issues. And we also have like a 360 culture. So like she gives me feedback too. I'm working on the long-term comp plan right now. And one of my biggest issues was with advisors who would like dangle the carrot and then never follow through, right? Like you have some advisors that are like, I'm going to give you my book. I'm going to give you this. I'm going to give you that. And then they never do it. And I hated that. And I'm like, that's just the last thing that I want to be. So I messaged our HR consultant and our CFOs, and I was like, we need a due date for rolling out the long-term compensation plan. So July 31st is when it's being rolled out. But that was Jordan like asking for what she needed. And I respect that this is a high priority for her, which it would be for me too, right? Because it's like she's a goal-oriented person and I hire high achievers. Like they want to know where they're going. So, yeah, I think to Jordan's point, it's like the mutual respect. One other thing that I'll say is my husband calls me a marketer's dream. So, like, I read the Kitsis weekend reading for financial planners, and I have a little bit of shiny object syndrome where I'm like, we should look at this, we should look at that. Not too much. I would say not as extreme as our clients. We tend to have like extreme shiny object syndrome people. But like there are things where I'm like, hey, I think this is worth looking at. And sometimes it's fantastic and sometimes it's not. Like we found Flourish, which is like the cash management program that our clients love because that was a rabbit hole I was willing to go down. But there are some other rabbit holes that Jordan's had to pull me out of, thank God. So
I always joke, I'm like, I try not to be the wet blanket, but every once in a while I come across the wet blanket.
we
We're
need a
chatting.
wet blanket sometimes.
And Kaitlyn, can you just talk about the growth that companies have? I mean, Jordan's been there, it looks like almost 2 years. So the growth, I mean, she's been able to free you up, and you've talked about that a little bit, but maybe a little more there. And then just how the firm has been able to grow because of this first sort of strategic good fit hire.
Absolutely. I like say I'm grateful for Jordan every single day because she is the cornerstone of the firm. Very early in our working together, I had the thought of like, okay, I can build a firm around this person. Like she is just as committed to client outcomes as I am. And when you are a small business owner, to find an employee who cares just as much as you do, it's like you'll do whatever to hold on to that person. That is a rock star. So I make sure that she has everything that she needs to be successful. And I went to her before we made the hire for our next advisor. I said, "Tell me what's most important to you. Is it time off? Is it a raise? Is it a second advisor? Like rank these things for me so that I know what's most important to you because she oversees all the client relationships now. So I need her to be well resourced so she can deliver on what I am selling to people. So I go to her and I said, rank these things. And then I took actions based on those things. Obviously, as you know, her number one was hire another advisor. So my
Which we're going to get to in a moment. That's
yes.
right.
So she told me that, and then I picked up the phone and I called you, and I was like, "Okay, we need another advisor," because that's what Jordan told me. So
And before we go there, because I do want to talk about your most recent hire some, but okay, a female entrepreneur hears you speak or sees you on a podcast or something, they call the office. Like, just walk us through I mean, both of you or whoever wants to take it, walk us through the process, how you qualify them, how you charge. You said a flat fee earlier, but maybe a little more detail there, and then what they're going to get. What's the experience?
yeah, I mean, we are huge on white glove service. Again, this is like we want to be known for that unreasonable hospitality. So if I go speak at a retreat and then someone shows interest in theory, they go to our website. We have a one-page website. There's a link at the bottom to get on my Calendly. We get on a call, and I can usually tell right away who's going to be a good fit for theory. I take them through like a mini onboarding process on the call. So I get their assets, their liabilities, the size of their business, what their income and expenses look like, what their goals are. And then based on those things, what they've articulated, I start to get a sense of whether I think they would be a good fit or not. We tend to work with, I would say the lowest is like high six figures into 7 and 8 figure female entrepreneurs. So the business is well established. There's recurring profitability there. So it's not like they're still trying to figure out how to make money. But we tend to attract women who are either the breadwinners or like they're the decision makers or have a big say in this type of decision. And usually the female entrepreneur is the one booking the call, and the spouse either joins then or joins as a part of the onboarding process. So I'm betting on the quantitative things, but I'm also very much betting on the qualitative things. Sometimes we have taken female entrepreneurs who might be a little bit lower in revenue, so they might be like mid six figures, but they have the mentality where I'm like, you were brave enough to book this call, you care about where you're going, and I believe you when you say like you're going to get there, because that's how I was. I hired my CFOs before like industry knowledge would tell you to, but that's because I thrive with a roadmap and I thrive with somebody setting goals for me. So it's a case by case basis, and I'm typically making a judgment call on whether I think that they're ready or not. And if they're not ready, it's usually because number one, their business just isn't mature enough yet. Or number two, we're not going to attract a DIY personality. Like, we are not going to be fighting you for control of this. I like to say, like, delegators are wealth creators. So, like, delegate to the experts. You go to your zone of genius, which is running your own company. So, once we vet them, and I have also taken Jordan's feedback into consideration too, like, who are your favorite clients? Who are the pain in the butt clients? Like, because I need to be screening for that. And I will say, I think we have like all awesome clients. There have been some like yellow flags who turned into red flags, and that kind of naturally sorts itself out.
Sure.
But it's very far and few between. And I think we've gotten better and better at it because Jordan has given me that feedback.
Based on the size of the business or some sort of complexity metric, you give them some sort of monthly recurring retainer fee. Is that the way it works?
Yes and no. I am a very simple person. So we have one type of client. We have one service at one fee structure.
Okay.
So we charge $1,500 a month, and we have a one-time onboarding fee of $4,500. And the $1,500 a month at the annual renewal, there's a 3% cost of living adjustment. But everyone pays the same fee for the same service, and it's the same type of client.
Very straightforward, very simple and easy to communicate and sell, right? And how many clients do you have right now, and how many can you serve based on
Yeah.
the current team?
It's a great question. So we are very quickly approaching 60 clients. And so that's why we really needed to hire another advisor, because a huge part of my mission with Theory is running it like a private wealth book of business. So each advisor will manage no more than like, I would say 40 to 50 relationships max. So each household is going to have a primary advisor and then a secondary advisor. So what we're building is like this utility model. And we have to build this because we're moms and we're going to go on maternity leaves. Our kids are going to get sick. So it's like we're going to have to be able to step in for each other. And we want our clients to feel supported at all times. And like you're getting the Theory experience no matter who you're working with. But I want each advisor to be the primary on 40 to 50 relationships. So very low household count.
And based on that and just and what I know about, you guys are doing a lot or basically everything for these people. Can you just give us some examples? Like, what are you helping them with?
So I'll describe our process and then I'll let Jordan jump in and share what she wants to. So we have an 8-step onboarding process. We do a tremendous amount of handholding and leading because we know that money can be intimidating to people. And we want them to feel like we are holding their hands and like reading their minds, essentially. So we have an 8-step onboarding process. We're building out their net worth, going through the cash flow, wealth protection documents, goals. We do data verification. We have an investment overview call. Then we do a plan presentation. By the end of onboarding, they should have a full roadmap that is speaking to cash flow, investments, the business, taxes, insurance, estate planning. We are also very early in the process starting to collaborate with the overall team. So some of the first people that we meet are the tax strategist and the fractional CFO, because the majority of financial advisors look at the business like a black box, to your point, until someone says, "Oh, I'm going to sell it," and then they care. For us, we understand that the financial health of the business is instrumental to the wealth creation. So we are heavily involved in the calls that are about the financial health of the business, because we're either helping them optimize for profitability or we're helping them optimize the value of the company. And that's going to have a huge impact on the financial plan. So they go through onboarding, implementation. Like, I don't know if Steve Jobs said that quote, but it's like, a goal is just a dream without execution. So I would say that's another huge differentiator for Theory is we have a 12-step implementation process where we are taking them through everything. So by the time they get through implementation, all their I's should be dotted, all their T's should be crossed on everything, like business succession planning, insurance, estate planning, their balance sheet should be organized. So the first 18 months with us is a tremendous amount of handholding. After that, they're going into ongoing services. So we have 2 formal meetings with them a year, one in the March timeframe, one in the September timeframe, because wealth creation is an iterative process, right? So we're checking in twice a year with the whole team, with the CFO and the tax strategist, and then we're available for what we call whiteboarding sessions in between those 2 formal meetings. So whiteboarding sessions are, I woke up in the middle of the night and I realized I want to spend a month on Nantucket. Can I do that? Or my kid just got accepted to Harvard, or I want to buy a real estate property. Can I do that? We're always just an email and a Zoom away to be the sounding board for our clients. So that's our process. I'll let Jordan jump in with anything she wants to add.
Yeah. So like you said, I mean, we do anything and everything with our clients. So I had calls with clients this morning about their business exit. We sat down with their CFO and we went through what options you have for your exit strategy. And then we got to triangulate with the CFO. Okay, well, this is how they actually want to exit. So how do we get there? We're not there yet. We talk about the valuation of the business. And so we kind of handhold through there, through that whole process. I mean, we'll sit down with clients and pay estimated taxes together, anything and everything. I've, of course, opened accounts for nephews and talked through generational wealth planning with attorneys with our clients. So anything and everything we can do to assist them with their financial plan, sometimes outside of the financial plan, we just get to love on them. So there's not really a scope that we're not willing to kind of go down the rabbit hole with them because we are the only. That's also a really incredible thing, because if a client wants to build out a real estate portfolio, we can work with real estate agents to help them with that transaction. There's just a whole host of things that will go down rabbit holes with clients. It's really fun. Every day is so different with them.
It sounds like it's working really well and you guys have it nailed down. I mean, I guess one thing I was curious about is if Kaitlyn's doing primarily the selling and handing them off to you, Jordan, I mean, is that worked? How has that worked?
Yeah. So during our intro call, Kaitlyn will introduce the client, go over the process, introduce the whole team, and we'll actually spend a little bit of time on that call getting to know them and more about their business. And then because we have such a robust onboarding process, we really get to know them during that, whether it's the net worth, like assets and liabilities. Our biggest one that we love to join with our clients on is our goals call. So we do actually, all of our clients take the Enneagram quiz, tell us what money was like for them growing up. It's a really robust hour-and-a-half long goals call versus kind of the traditional, like, check the box. Are you interested in generational wealth? And
Like,
so
what is that?
yeah, yeah. So we get really, really close with our clients throughout that onboarding process. And then, of course, Kaitlyn's always still there. So sometimes she'll jump in for whiteboarding sessions if there's any questions. Yeah, it's worked really well. I don't know, Kaitlyn, if you have anything you'd add to that.
Yeah, I would say so when Jordan first joined, obviously I had built a relationship with those clients, right? So Jordan spent, I would say, 18 months with me. Like we took all the calls together. I would say she watched me lead through one season. And then pretty quickly thereafter, she started leading and I was just on the call. So I was really just on there for moral support. But by the time she took over client relationship management in January, and by that point, people were like, this is like a non-announcement. She's been running the meetings for last year. So that's how we did it when I was more in the day to day. Because to Jordan's point, you build a lot of quality time with these people because you're meeting with them for 8 weeks in a row. And we do want them to be familiar with both, right? But I think also we're building such a strong culture that, like, no matter who hops on the call, the client expects that they're going to get the theory service or the theory way. The other thing I'm very transparent about is like I hired people who are better than me. So if people are like, "Oh, I would want you to be," I'm like, "You do not want me to be your advisor. I don't even know what the 415 limit is anymore. I think I'm like 2 years behind on the 415 limit." So, like, hire people who are better than you.
Awesome. And Joy, I just want to go back to something like your supervisor, the firm founder came to you and said, "Hey, I know we're getting, you're getting kind of a full book. Like, what else do you need?" I mean, how did that make you feel? I mean, that's that everybody, that's not the way it happens at every firm.
No, that's so uncommon. It's so uncommon, and it just felt really empowering, and also just for me, I felt like I was being heard because not everyone needs the same things, right? We all have different at home things going on, right? I have a 1-year-old, and having that time is way more important to me than essentially anything else in this moment. And so the fact that she thought to ask the question was so powerful. I didn't even realize I was thinking that. It wasn't even like on my radar, oh, I should really be thinking about my time or money or, any of those benefits. And so it was just really, really great because it also challenged me to ask myself, what is it I need in this moment? And I think oftentimes we get so busy, we forget to reflect on our own needs. We just keep pushing on. And then all of a sudden you burn out because you don't know what you need.
So here you are, we bring somebody in, we hire somebody that's now working and working a lot with you. So you've had to, and I can't remember if you had management experience in the past, but now you're having to manage and really like work with this newer person. How has that transition been?
That's actually been super great. One, it goes back to when Kaitlyn came to you for second hire, we had kind of what we were looking for. We had already kind of discussed internally, what is it we need from this next person? And so when she came in, it was just a really easy, smooth transition to bring her in. She's very focused and goal oriented and also detail oriented. So, if anything, it was just a huge lift for the team. There's been obviously some transition of like, oh, this is how we do the process and so on and so forth, but just like any onboarding. And so it's been really, really good. And I'm excited to see as she continues to ramp up and really step into client calls more and more, how that's going to even lift the firm up as a whole more.
Caitlin, if you would talk about, I mean, look, it's easy to give the theory experience when it's just you. And it's a little more difficult, but still pretty easy if it's just you and Jordan. But
Mhm.
now it's three people. So as you keep expanding, how are you going to retain the quality control?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the key to it is communication is the ultimate elixir, right? So that feedback loop being early and often, because of the structure of theory, you're going to be put into a leadership position pretty quickly and early. There are a lot of privileges of working for theory. Like we're rolling out a $250 a month wellness stipend so that you can get a massage or get your yoga classes paid for, or like I really care about my advisors being well resourced. We are rolling out a long-term compensation structure that is going to have a profit sharing component to it because we're advising business owners and I want my advisors to think like business owners. So there are a lot of privileges that are going to come and you get to have a seat at the table and have a say. So it's going to be a privilege to work at Theory. And in exchange for that privilege, you have to be willing to carry that culture of unreasonable hospitality. That is my ask in return. So I definitely plan to be for when each advisor comes on. very involved in the beginning until I know and trust that they can carry it without me. And it's only fair to them as well, right? Because it's new and it's a very unique way of doing things. It's new to them, but that's going to be the ask. I also read Dan Sullivan's book 10x is easier than 2x, and he talks about how the best indicator of happiness is when people have control over their time. So we are going to be a KPI culture. Did these things get done? Yes or no? It's not going to be this culture of like, did you sit at your desk from 8 a.m.?
Fill the time.
Yeah,
Yeah, fill the
exactly.
time.
Right. Because like eventually, let's say we grow to 10 advisors, like again, the pediatrician appointment, like that's going to come up when you least expect it. And I want our advisors to feel like I know how stressful that is when that comes out of nowhere and it changes your day and you have to reschedule everything. It's like, I don't want them to be having this extra layer of stress of like, what does my employer think about this? Do they trust me? It's like, I knew what it was like to experience that just having a dog. So I was like, I never want anybody to feel this. I just want them to take care of what they need to take care of. And then they'll figure it out, whether it's they work until 7 p.m. or they reschedule. And, so it's going to be a culture of transparency and measurability. And part of that is going to be also me checking in with the clients. Like, how do you feel? Are you getting the theory experience? And never in like a gotcha kind of way, but just like getting a pulse check every now and again of like the clients are our best ambassadors.
With a secondary advisor, like Kaitlyn was talking about, that's another piece too. Just having that layer of support through and through has naturally helped to provide that experience for all of our clients, which is helpful.
It's just awesome what you guys have come up with and how things are working. And I mean, again, we could talk for hours about all this, and I'd love to do that. But as we're winding down, and maybe Jordan, will start with you and then let Kaitlyn close us out. But any final, I mean, you've already given us a lot of nuggets of wisdom, which we all appreciate. And I've learned a lot on this. Any final tips or comments that you'd like to leave the audience with?
I think just in general, I mean, find what you're passionate about and do that, because you'll be able to outwork anyone else. And that's really the biggest thing. And if it is financial planning, if it's a specific type of client for financial planning, find what that is and run towards it. Because I've done stuff that is soul draining, and I've done work now that is energy giving, and it's night and day. So run towards what you're passionate about. So
I think my advice would be to, if this is the path that you are passionate about, definitely pursuing your CFP. Because I will say for hiring, when I'm sorting through resumes, it's a non-negotiable for me. They have to have a CFP. And I remember being in my early 20s and thinking, I have to get this credential because it's an immediate differentiator. As someone who's hiring, like the CFP is just such a great designation to carry that teaches you a lot in the process as well. So, and through studying for the CFP, you are going to find out whether you're passionate or not about this career path.
1000%. A lot of hours. You'll know.
Guys, this was a lot of fun. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us, Caleb.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the New Planner Podcast. If you're ready to discover the top career paths for financial planners and see which track is best for you, we created a free guide to help you. Grab your copy of the Financial Planner Career Roadmap at newplannerrecruiting.com/roadmap. There, you'll also find more tools and resources all created to help you build a successful financial planning career. Tune back in next week for another episode, and until then, we're here to help you succeed.